Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Shamashram in Cali, Colombia, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. And we're here winding down our retreat in Cali, our wisdom training with, I think about 20 students. And it's very sweet, just hearing and chanting all day with an occasional stop to eat tropical fruit. And yeah, we're going to be heading back soon. We have one more day. And let's see. Today we get our COVID test because you need a COVID test to re-entry. But we've been basically just hanging out with each other. So we haven't really been to the outside world so much. And then we have an excursion day on Friday. Today's Wednesday, right? No, today's Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday. Kaustubha, we might have to cancel tomorrow. And then Saturday will be our last day. And Sunday, we definitely have to cancel because that's a flying day. So we'll make that announcement today if you're on our channel.
You'll have to make it today.
We'll have to make it today. We'll have to. But we're doing Sweet Baby Krishna again tonight, which has been sort of nice to do so many Sweet Baby Krishnas in a row.
Are you going to do Sweet Baby Krishna on Friday for people that don't get the show on Friday morning?
Well, I'll think about it by the end of the show.
Okay.
But you know, it's interesting because we're in this very great place in the Bhagavatam with all these very sweet parts about Vidura appreciating Krishna as this very intimate, sweet being. And it's just not the way most of us grew up. We grew up with this idea like the higher power rules with fear. I mean, that doesn't work in a family. If the father is ruling or the mother is ruling with this very strong authoritarian power, it's like the kids just grow up in fear. So who wants to think of our higher power like this? And what I really like about Bhakti is our main deity of Krishna. There's so many avatars of Krishna, or Vishnu, but their main deity is actually this charming, adorable child. And Vidura has so much appreciation. And when we were talking about this yesterday and early this morning, me and Kaustubha have a little bro down in the morning. We just talk about spiritual things and very high stuff. We can't quite explain.
High level discussion.
High level stuff. I dress up in a gopi's outfit and pretend.
No, he does not. I want to make this clear.
I'm looking at Jason. He's going, "What the hell is this guy talking about?" But anyway, I had it reminded me of this incredible pastime from the Mahabharata, whereas there came to time in the very beginning of the Mahabharata battle that it was impossible to beat the Kurus because Grandfather Bhishma was on the other side. Mm-hmm. And Grandfather Bhishma is so truly ferocious in his fighting skills. He was trained on the higher planets how to fight. And he also had this benediction that he couldn't be killed by a mortal. He could only die when he chose to die. So how are you supposed to beat an enemy like that? Trained by the celestial beings, right? He only could die when it was cursed. It was we call it a blessing, but he was cursed to live a very long time, and he could die at will. So it's hard to beat any enemy like that. So Krishna told, and Draupadi, who Krishna loves so much, Draupadi said, I don't know what to do. Every one of our family members are going to die. My husbands are going to die. Draupadi's married to all of the husbands, all the Pandavas. They're all going to die here. I don't know what to do, Krishna. And Krishna told her, and he told Yudhishthira this later, you're going to have to go personally and petition Bhishma to die. And
Not
he
Draupadi.
told that. Who are you thinking?
The Pandavas went there, right?
The Pandavas went there too. This is a separate story, but it's part of the same day, because the Pandavas had to go there. And that was a very, very moving scene where the Pandavas go to Bhishma and beg Bhishma. And Bhishma was recalling, oh, I remember when boys were little, I used to put you on my lap and I just, snuggle you children. And he goes, well, you want me to die? Yes, of course I will die. It's just like he's completely detached. Because you have asked me and petitioned me, there would be no way you could ever kill me. But because you have asked me and come to me like this, then yes. But Draupadi also went, and
I
it was
didn't know that. I want to hear this.
It's just a cute little part of the story, because Krishna's so sneaky and tricky in a sweet way. He says, Draupadi, it's only appropriate that when you go to the enemy's camp, you first remove your chappals, your shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And so she said, really? Yeah. These guys are, you got some very saintly people here. So she goes, okay, I'll remove my shoes. And as she started walking ahead, because Krishna worships his devotee.
Oh, okay.
He and devotees always do this too. Urugai is famous for this. Urugai is here, He's like, let me give you a little foot massage. Because the devotees, this valuable thing for devotees is to touch the feet of other devotees. Mm-hmm. Now, generally, we don't like our feet being touched. It means we're submitting to you. And so our idea is we don't want people to submit to me. I want to submit to them. See, the material world is the opposite. I want the whole world to submit to me right now. That's materialism. But devotees have the opposite. They're playing opposite.
I don't submit to you. You don't submit to me. I submit to you.
That's what the devotees are saying. So even Krishna, who is Bhagavan, who is the Lord of all the demigods, everyone's worshipful deity, he's submitting to his devotee. And so he sees Draupadi's shoes, and as Draupadi walks away, he cannot help but, I've got to bow down and touch her shoes. So he puts his shoes to his head, and then he says, oh, whatever. And he starts carrying her shoes on his head. The idea is that, and it's sort of a weird concept in America, we don't get it, but the idea of the feet are the lowest part of the body. And therefore, your feet, which are the lowest, I find most worshipable. That means I am not only your servant, I'm like your lowest humble servant. And so Krishna, when Draupadi finally turned around, she saw Krishna with her shoes on his head. So anyway, this is our Lord. This is our concept of God, that he's actually playful, he's charming, he's funny, he's adorable,
Bit of a trickster.
and he worships the devotees. He's driving the chariot for Arjuna. That is like, to be the chariot driver is a very lowly position. And there came a time also in the Mahabharata. Do you remember this when who did they make the commander of chief? And they made Jayadratha the chariot driver. Let's get
Karna. It was Karna, right?
Karna was a chariot driver for Jayadratha was a chariot driver for Karna. And he was like so humbled because Jayadratha was a great warrior in his own right. And Duryodhana had it very cleverly said, well, you're the best. And of course, Karna's no better than you, but we're asking if you could just do it just this once, because we really need your skill. And he had to really butter up Jayadratha because it's such a lowly position. And here is Krishna on the chariot, like on the chariot driver. And you made this point, the chariot, the
Charioteer.
The charioteer, the guy who's actually doing the fighting, he has to put his feet sometimes on the chariot driver.
That's how you direct him.
You give
kick him on the left side, that means turn left. Kick him on the right side, turn right, like that.
Right. So getting kicked repeatedly by Arjuna, Krishna was, and Krishna.
Yeah. So the point you're making, I'm not sure if it was Jayadratha, because I think he was dead by the time Karna came on the battlefield. I'm not sure about that.
Was it?
Yeah.
But he was sneering at Karna.
But the point was this other powerful warrior they needed him to drive Karna's chariot, but he was so reluctant to do it because he felt like this is a humiliation. I'm on his level. I shouldn't become his chariot driver, like some kind of servant, right? He
Okay.
thought it was beneath him. But Krishna says, "Oh, it's not beneath me to serve Arjuna."
Okay, some of our Mahabharata trivia geniuses. Let's see who it was. Who was the chariot driver for Karna when Karna became the commander in chief of the Kurus? Good little trivia. Put it
Good
up on the
question.
message board,
Good
please.
question.
Yeah, but that's I mean, this is how we
Well,
grow up. And I had a brother that would say to me, God will punish you. You'll hear that. God will punish you for that. God will punish you. And we look at God as this sort of like sadistic, like guy comes in with like a whip and a chain and waiting for me to screw up. And it's just not a healthy way to grow up with a concept of a higher power. Our rules are enforced. There are rules, but it's not to tell us that thou shalt not, what to speak of, thou shalt not have fun. You know, we follow rules for our benefit and because they actually give us more joy, not because we're getting cheated out of fun. Spiritual life, we say this so many times, is susukam kartam aviyam. It's not just sukam, it's susukam. It's incredibly joyful. So any rules that we do put in place for ourselves are to enhance joy. It's not to take away our joy. What do you think of that, Kaustubha?
I like that a lot. And thank you for that. And we've got the driver. It was Shalya. Yeah.
What did I
Shalya.
say?
You
Shalva?
said Jarsunda, but he was already dead by that point.
I didn't say Jarsunda. Oh, I
Did
said
you? Oh,
Jaidra.
no, not Jarsunda. I said Jaidra. You said
Jarsunda.
Yeah,
Jarsunda.
that's
Okay.
right.
Thank you.
Jaidra.
That was Aravind. Thank you, Aravind. We got a
Yeah,
whole
I said
posse of
Madhumati
Mahabharata
got it.
experts here. Huh?
Madhumati got it too. There.
Madhumati, she's sharp, trained from childhood,
Yeah.
reading those Amar Chitra Katha comic books.
That's right. I've been reading Ramayana every day. Amar Chitta Katha.
Comic book version?
Yeah, I mean, I'm loving it. I tell you, sometimes you just look at the art is really, really good, you know. And
For those who don't know, all of the great epics and Puranas are in comic book version.
Yeah.
And I find they give such like refined detail. Like my son knows every little detail. Like, oh yeah, and he stumps me. I was like, how did you know that? He's like, it's in the comic book. It's like, are you? I was like, are you some type of Sanskrit pundit? Nope, comic books.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about the comic books is you grow up from childhood reading these. And then you fall in love, you read the deeper versions. And then as you get older, you're still really, I mean, I'm 55. I read the comic books, but I'll be reading the Ramayana when I'm an old man. It's the same concept of regular mundane Marvel comic books. There's a hero, there's a villain, there's someone who needs to be saved. But if you're reading Spider-Man at 75, it's a little weird. You know what I mean? But you can read these till you're an old man or old lady, and they're completely fulfilling. And your version of Bhagavan has now fully blossomed in your ripe old age, because we understand God in different, we understand God from a different vantage point when we're 11, and we understand our higher power, God, from a different vantage point when we're 22. I will say, north of 50, I have a whole different vantage point of God.
Do you?
How is
it?
I'm sure you do too.
He became
Come on.
younger.
What?
He became younger, smaller.
No,
more
it's just
adorable.
no, it's just because everything is counting up. You're looking up. You're reaching up when you're young. You think, when I get older, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to create this. And I got so much hopes to do this. And now in my age, I'm just thinking, well, how do I want to wind this up? How do I want to wind up this life? And you're thinking, and you're less pulled by these very strong passions, which basically possess you in your teens and your youth. It's
That's because you've been doing all of that sadhana, Raghunath.
Well, we do sadhana. We hear truth from from you and me got into this when we were in our early 20s.
You've been doing a lot of seva over the years, a lot of seva, a lot of service. It's adding up. There you go.
Aging and truth go well together.
They
know what I mean?
Yeah,
NFL football, playing NFL football and aging go ill together. Mixed martial arts, Muay Thai, boxing, they go ill together. If I'm 75, I don't want to do Muay Thai or get in the ring with Conor McGregor. But if I'm, unless he's old too, but something like wisdom and age, those go great together.
Yeah.
They go really well together.
Like Reese's peanut butter cup.
It
Old
is.
age and wisdom.
Old age and wisdom, two great things that taste great
Go
together.
great together.
Me and Kaustubha are so old, we're even quoting ancient. I mean, me and Parmenan there had strong revelations of how old we are, because we said something about Rage Against the Machine, and one of the ladies was like, "Who's Rage Against the Machine?" And I was like, "Oh my God, we are so old. They don't even know who Rage Against the Machine is. This is a new generation coming up right now."
Yep.
All right. You want to dive into the magic nectar pot of the Srimad Bhagavatam?
Exactly what I want to do.
Okay, let's start with our secret mantras. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavad sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Midatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master have opened my eyes with the ointment of knowledge. Now for maybe obeisances to them. I don't know if before I got into Bhakti, I may never have used the word obeisances in my life. Now I use it a few times a day. Thanks, Bhakti, for opening up my vocabulary. All right, so we are in a wonderful place in the Bhagavatam, and it's especially wonderful because what we're having is a pure devotee, Vidura, who we all love, start to really fully appreciate Krishna in his very intimate form.
Actually, but it's Uddhava that's speaking, right?
I'm sorry, Uddhava. Yeah. Who is, very interestingly enough, looks like Krishna.
Dresses like Krishna.
Dresses like Krishna. Now, you and me, Kaustubha, you and me couldn't pull this off. If we dress like Krishna, we look quite bizarre. We look like drag queens.
It wouldn't work.
Walking out there. But Uddhava can pull it off. Dresses, lots of jewelry, garish hats and turbans and, bright colors. It's not the New York look. Couldn't see you in this. So,
I'm not going to try.
New York lovers, they wear a lot of black in New York.
They do, especially in winter.
Yeah. Okay. Prabhuji, what verse were we
so
on?
We've building up to this. We were Uddhava was, again, the whole subject got brought up. Uddhava started hearing Krishna's name. For about 48 minutes, he kind of checked out into the spiritual world. Came back demonstrating all these sattvika bhavas, all these involuntary physical symptoms were appearing in him, his voice choking up and tears and all this. He was experiencing the deepest level of love of God. Okay, and so then he begins to describe Krishna. First he describes Krishna's beauty, and then he begins to describe Krishna's character. And we read text 15 yesterday, which was about his character, about how he's everywhere at all times, but when those that love him and those that he loves, when there's some danger for them, right? When there's some trouble, then he appears in his original form. And that's why Krishna came. And now we're going to read, I think, let's just go back and forth. The verses 15, we'll start at 16 because we read 15 yesterday, but 16 now through 24, I think it is, 23, 24, right. Something like that. these talk about Krishna's character. Uddhava, you got to picture him there, that his heart is soft and melted, and he's not just talking about I love God. He's feeling it really deeply, and he starts to reel off these verses that are glorifying, just like you were in the beginning of this, talk here today, the beginning of the show today. It's understanding that Krishna's not that scary. I told that story about the bird yesterday, and it's in Vaisheshika Prabhu's home, and he's just trying to help it out the window, and the bird's looking at him like, you tried to kill me, but you didn't get away with it.
Right.
So these are verses. We can understand the intention of the author, of Vyasadeva, like sharing this, because he hasn't even. What we're going to hear about Krishna's pastimes and how he demonstrates in those pastimes, just how kind he is, just how merciful he is, just how he's, almost ridiculously like kind, just like to extreme extents. We're going to hear the full pastimes later in the 10th canto, but right now we're just getting a little verse by verse taste of them, so that we get this idea that don't be afraid. Don't be like that bird that is paranoid. We get it. You've had troublesome relationships in your life. Don't allow that to cloud your objectivity, that there could be a supreme being that's not warped with all kinds of sadistic,
It's like before I got into bhakti, I wasn't even qualified to be a friend. Friendship was even just sort of like, it was like pushing and pulling with like ego. It's like I learned how to be kind. It's like I was missing that bone in my body, the kind bone. But that's how, and Krishna demonstrates it too. That's the beautiful thing. But if you see devotees interact like that, it's the most like impressive thing. And you only just want to like, I want that. I want to be like that.
We're sometimes we're almost even a little too conditioned to appreciate. It's like, is that real? Is that,
It's real.
Yeah.
It's real with Krishna. There's that story of Krishna eating dirt. The esoteric reason why he ate the dirt is because he wanted the dust of the devotees. And so he put the dirt in his mouth.
As a little boy.
Okay, so we're going to read text 16.
Is that peacocks I hear in the background?
That's a peacock. That is a
Nice.
peacock. There's some incredible sounds here. Some of them even sound like electronic, and some of them sound like those women in Vrindavan who go.
It's so loud there at nighttime. It's like all the creatures, the frogs and all these like tons of crickets or something like that. Isn't it loud?
Yeah, if you're unfamiliar with that, Indians know what I'm talking about. But there's, ladies make this sound in India when they're going to an auspicious place. Women just travel in packs in India. Have you noticed that? Like packs of women just showing up, and they come into the temple and they just go. So even if you've been practicing bhakti in the West, you're like, what the hell is going on here? But it's a thing. I think if you're from India, you can write on the board what you think it means. I think it just means like an auspicious sound. But Ameya says ululation.
Yeah,
they make it.
They do it like if you see them, especially in Bengal, I've seen. Their tongue is going back and forth in their mouth, like sideways, like incredibly fast. I don't know how they do it.
Ameya says wedding times in Bengal, auspicious on every occasion. Aravind says it's an auspicious sound. But
it's like if you're in a temple.
Ululation? They're using our English word to describe what they do. Meaning, I've never even heard ululation before. Have you?
Well, I don't know if they use it, but that's.
Well, they just said it's called ululation.
Yeah.
Arabic
English.
women do it too.
Yeah.
Vivi says. Oh, and someone does it. I thought
in Iran they do it.
In Iran they do it as well. Ululation. Okay, maybe let's just bring it in. Let's bring it into the culture.
Ladies, we're going to have a contest next week. Who can do it best? You ready, Raghunath?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Dr. Chris just asked me a question.
Let's read, huh?
When I think of Lord Krishna, how he was born in the prison house of Vasudeva, although he is unborn, how he went away from his father's protection in Braj and lived there incognito out of fear of the enemy, and how, although unlimitedly powerful, he fled from Mathura in fear. It's all bewildering. These incidents give me distress.
Lord Krishna begged pardon from his parents for his inability to serve their feet, due to being away from home because of great fear of Kamsa. He said, "O mother, O father, please excuse us for this inability. All this behavior gives me pain at heart."
So Kamsa imprisoned his mother and his father, and they stayed in prison, right, until Krishna came back.
Yeah, let's read them all, and we'll go back and we'll fill in all the details.
Okay. Who, after smelling the dust of his lotus feet, so again, we keep referring to the feet dust.
Mm-hmm.
Who, after smelling the dust of his lotus feet even once, could ever forget it? Simply by expanding the leaves of his eyebrows. The leaves of his eyebrows. Krishna has given the death blow to those who are burdening the earth.
You have personally seen, he's speaking to Vidura, Vidura, you have seen yourself personally that the king of Chedi, Shishupal, achieved success in yoga practice, although he hated Lord Krishna. Even the actual yogis aspire after such success with great interest by performing their various practices. Who can tolerate separation from him?
Success in yoga practice here does not mean Shishupal was doing a handstand. This is, yeah. Okay. Certainly others who were fighters on the battlefield of Kurukshetra were purified by the onslaught of Arjuna's arrows. And while seeing the lotus-like face of Krishna, so pleasing to the eyes, they achieved the abode of the Lord.
Lord Sri Krishna is the Lord of all kind of threes, and is independently supreme by achievement of all kinds of fortune. He is worshipped by the eternal maintainers of the creation, who offer him the paraphernalia of worship by touching their millions of helmets to his feet. So he's saying he's like the most exalted, but then and now he's going to contrast that.
Mm. Therefore, O Vidura, does it not pain us, his servitors, when we remember that he, Lord Krishna, used to stand before King Ugrasena, who was sitting on the royal throne, and used to submit explanations before him, saying, "Oh my Lord, please let it be known to you." So Krishna used to go to the king, and as if he was a subject as well.
Yeah. And then this verse now is a very famous verse. Alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he, who granted the position of mother to a she-demon, shapeshifter, Putana, although she was unfaithful and she prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breast.
So for those who are not in the know, we just told this story the other day, but this is a famous story of one of the first demons that came to kill Krishna was Putana. She was a witch, and she had the ability to shapeshift. And she was very gruesome, but she had the ability to turn herself into the most beautiful, breathtaking woman. And not only was it a beautiful, breathtaking woman, but she was like she walked into Vrindavan, which is like a farmer's village. So if you go to a farmer's village, everyone sort of looks a little farmy. They wear, the women aren't, primped up, and the guys aren't, everyone looks farmy. And they wear boots. Where we live, it's very farmy. You go into the farm store, drop off our kids at school, and it's different than living in LA, where you really doll yourself up before you go out the door and go to the gym, stuff like that. So people wearing boots and messy hair and stuff like that. And in comes the goddess of fortune herself, practically speaking. You're like, whoa. And when Putana came, it was like everybody was just shocked. Who is this woman? And she just walked in and she just said, "Hey, I hear a little baby in there." Yeah, we have a baby. Can I take a peek at your baby? Sure. Sometimes beautiful people, you just want to do whatever they want to do. Yeah, sure. Come on in. You're beautiful. What could go wrong? And she's like, "Oh my God, this baby's so beautiful. Can I pick up your baby?" Yeah, sure. You're so beautiful. We just trust beauty. It's so weird, huh? Beautiful people. That's another type of privilege. The beautiful people privilege. They get away with anything because they're beautiful. And then finally, she just looked at that baby. She said, I know this is going to sound crazy, but can I breastfeed your baby? Yeah, of course you can. Sure, breastfeed my child. But little do they know, poison was smeared on the breast of that witch to kill that child. But you can't kill Lord Krishna. Krishna is all-knowing. He's knowing. And instead of killing, he sucked like a super high-powered vacuum cleaner, sucked her breast and sucked her very life air, returning her body to a gruesome, gruesome form. Whew.
Okay, let's go through the let's go through this list of what Uddhava just shared and try to understand it. Okay.
I didn't mean to get on that detour, but if you don't know who Putana is, the whole thing doesn't make sense. So.
Right. So we're going to get there. We're going to go into it in more depth. He said that just think about Lord Krishna when he was a little boy. You see, because what happened was Krishna was born in a place called Mathura. And he was born to parents who were in jail. And they were in jail because Krishna's uncle, who was the king, named Kamsa, there was a prophecy that they were going to have a child that was going to kill him. And so when Krishna was born, they were in prison. He was killing all the whatever children that they had. He was killing all the children like all over the place.
Quite a gruesome story.
Yeah, he was killing all the children all over the place because of his fear. But when Krishna was born, his father took him, and he was mystically able to escape the prison for the evening, took him across the Yamuna River to Vrindavan, and switched him with Yashoda's child. And so Yashoda and Nanda became Krishna's. Generally, when we speak of Krishna's mother, we speak of Yashoda, although in a sense she's his foster mother. And Nanda is, as his father's, in a sense, is his foster father. And he grows up with them until he's around 16 or so. And then he goes back to Mathura, and he kills Kamsa, and he frees his parents from the prison. And so that's part of like the whole plot that's playing out in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam. So when Krishna goes back, it was mentioned here that Uddhava says, this is the Supreme Lord. This is the one that all the devas are bowing down to. But he goes before his mother and father, and he, like a person feeling deep remorse. Huh?
Remorse.
Yeah, remorse.
Remorse is
forgive me for not being able to save you before. The idea is that the whole plot that's playing out here is meant to increase the emotions, the intensity of the emotions, the intensity of love. And by killing Kamsa, Krishna has the opportunity to avenge this crime that was done to his loved ones. And then he goes before, and there's this heartbreaking scene where Krishna goes before his parents who have been living in separation from him, and he begins to apologize, And Uddhava is saying, that's God himself, and it's breaking his heart to think of him like that. So he describes that scene. He describes the scene that took place at this Rajasuya sacrifice, which we spoke about yesterday, I think, right? This big, huge social event that Yudhishthira is performing to bring auspiciousness to the kingdom. And part of that ceremony is you have to find the most worthy person, the most respectable person, and show them some honor, right?
Yeah, the first to be worshipped.
Yeah, and so Yudhishthira chose Krishna, right? Of all the people, and there are so many important people there, and this Shishupal, who was he also a cousin of Krishna? I forget. I think he may have been. In any case,
Jarasandha, you're thinking of, I think was related to Krishna.
Maybe. So in any case,
get our India crew on it. Or Mahabharata.
He was. We're getting.
Shishupal was related.
Yeah.
They're saying.
Yes.
So the interesting side note to this was that everybody who was around when Krishna was on the planet, if they were connected spiritually, they saw Krishna beyond any social order. This is Bhagavan themselves. But if they had this like the dark side inside them, they just saw Krishna. They're trying to figure him out by his caste, by his social position, by his kingdom, the size of his kingdom. Let's say, it's just a little kingdom over there. And so they couldn't see, even when Krishna was performing miracles and doing fantastic things and showing his universal form, they just saw him as an ordinary person. Whereas people like Sahadev, Bhishma, Yudhishthira, Vidura, this is Bhagavan himself who's come and he's acting like a friend. And so immediately when they decided, of course, Krishna, who is higher than Krishna? When Bhishma recommended we have to worship Krishna first for the Agra Puja, then of course there's no one higher than Krishna. Now, in a social order, Krishna, he was confused about who his parentage was. You know, is his parents Devaki or is it Yashoda? His kingdom is very small. He's a cowherd boy, and now he's a prince. And so the whole thing in like a social order, Krishna wasn't the highest. And then, of course, there's great sages at this ceremony. There's powerful kings. There's elders like Vyasadeva. And so the people who didn't worship Krishna as Bhagawan, they just started getting agitated as soon as Krishna started getting the first worship, and they just started speaking amongst themselves. And then finally, Shishupal just stood up and said, "I've had enough. I've had enough of this." He goes, "Some of you can sit here and take it, but I find that Yudhisthira worshiping this cowherd boy, I find this the most offensive thing. If you wanted to worship someone of great wisdom, worship Vyasadeva. Someone of saintly character, worship some of the great sages. If you wanted to worship someone who is a heroic, why not worship any of these kings? We've got so many kings. But Yudhisthira, I think you've lost your mind when you want to worship Krishna." He was like furious. And then
he hated Krishna from his childhood, right? Shishupal. He was envious. Yes?
I'm trying to think. What was that? Why did he
I will tell you, Raghunath. You don't have to look around. I will tell you
the backstory.
So
101 comment, 101.
Yeah, back when they were children, he was always insulting Krishna and so on. And Shishupal's mother, who's Krishna's aunt, says, "Please, you know, don't be offended by him." You know, like she was afraid that Krishna would hurt him, and Krishna made a promise that I will tolerate 100 insults from him, right?
He said,
and so.
No, he was the one that was.
Yes. And so what happened at the Rajasuya sacrifice, you know, Shishupal, again, from birth is so envious of Krishna. And he stood up, just like you're saying, and said, "I can't take this. Is ridiculous. Of all people, this Krishna." And then he started insulting Krishna. What?
He was born deformed.
Twice.
Right?
I don't know. They may have been, but
he was born deformed. He was born deformed. And he said, and so the mother heard from a prophetic voice, "Whoever holds this baby will heal this child. That person will also kill your child." And so whenever someone would come over, she'd say, "Will you hold the child?" Sure. So one day Krishna came over. When Krishna held that child became very, very beautiful and very, very healed of all his deformities. But she also remembered the prophetic voice saying, "That person will kill your child." Okay. And so as soon as the baby got healed, she said, "Oh, Krishna, why will you kill this child?" And Krishna's like, "I'm not going to kill the child." He says, "Krishna, the prophetic voice has said you will kill the child." He says, "I'm not going to kill the child." He says, "Please, you promise me right now, Krishna." And Krishna said, "This child can insult me 100 times and I will not kill him."
Okay. So that was the promise.
Yeah. And then there's a list in the big version of the Mahabharata. It goes through every 100 insults.
Oh,
finally, and the whole time when the Pandavas are getting so agitated, I can't believe Krishna's getting insulted like
it's
this.
Like they have the hand right on their sword and it's like trembling and they're about to pull it out. Yudhishthira's like, "No, hold on,
the
don't
whole
do
time
it."
Bhishma was going like this. Don't worry, Krishna's going to take care of this right now. And so and Shishupal was such a cruel king, it was part of the drama unfolding of the killing of Shishupal, and of course the liberation of Shishupal, because when Shishupal died, Shishupal we told the story last night, he was one of the gatekeepers of Vaikuntha, and he took birth to become liberated by Krishna.
So and that's what Uddhava is describing here, that after Krishna endures 100 insults, right, and and Shishupal is just reeling them off one after another, that Krishna then, and only then, after on number 101, Krishna kills him, and he kills him by the Sudarshan Chakra, right? He just like effortlessly just manifests this kind of like transcendental, spiritual, powerful weapon that just from his finger just is like a spinning disc. His head gets cut off, and then but everyone that was there witnessed that a light came from the body of Shishupal and entered the body of Krishna. And they understood this was a yogic perfection, right? To merge into the form of the Lord. To merge into the light of the Lord, right? In a sense, it appeared that he merged into his body, but to merge into the Brahmajyoti, to merge into the divine light. Great yogis, and mystics, they practice austerities for lifetimes to achieve this. This was a person that was just insulting Krishna, but Krishna's so kind. And this is the point. There's a name for Krishna, Gunagrahi, right? Gunagrahi. That guna means qualities, and it means that he sees the good, he extracts the good quality. In other words, if we're afraid of God being this kind of vindictive, kind of character, we see Krishna is really quite the opposite, right? Even if you're full of bad qualities, he just focuses on what little good is there. Shishupal was just a rotten person to the core, practically, right? But Krishna granted him liberation. And then this extreme example comes up next. And that's the story of Putana, right? And so this verse, Aho Bhakti-yam, it's a verse that's been, it's quoted over the centuries by Bhakti-yogis to demonstrate the character of Krishna. The word aho, it means like, my God. Right? It's like
Aho is like, what?
Yeah, it's like, this is unbelievable. This is incredible. How wonderful. How astounding.
I'm going to start saying that. Aho.
Aho.
Aho. Right. Look at everybody utilating today. Woo.
So he says, Aho Bhakti-yam stanakala kutam, that isn't this just amazing that Bhakti, and that refers to Putana, right? That she rubbed this kutam, this poison on her breast, right? And she came to kill Krishna, right? That was her whole plot. And it said that she had like her heart was just full of what it says, the word is here, jibhangsaya, out of envy. Her heart was just like rotten. She, there's nothing worse, like there's all kind of crimes out there, right? But just, when it comes to someone that would kill a child.
Infanticide.
What is it?
Infanticide.
Is that how you pronounce it? So anyway.
No? What do you, Mara's like, no. What? How do you, come on.
I think it's infanticide, isn't it?
Is it?
Like that,
yeah. Infanticide?
Yeah, I don't think it's infanticide.
Why would they change the accent? Infanticide makes so much more sense.
We're going to have to live with it.
Forgive me, Mara. Mara was going like that, going to give me the big no.
So there's, but what's worse, than someone that comes, and also, what's worse than someone who's like two-faced, right? Like, it would have been one thing if I just came in there to kill the child, but I came in there as if I was going to care for the child.
Yeah.
Like a wolf in sheep's clothing, right? That's like, makes it's just even more heinous, There's in the 10th canto, there's a verse that describes this, when this pastime is told there. It says, Putana, the Rakshashi, she's a Rakshasa, she's like a blood-sucking, demoness. Her heart was fierce and cruel, but she looked like a very affectionate mother. Thus she resembled a sharp sword in a soft sheath. Right?
Sharp, nice.
This is a tongue twister. A sharp sword in a soft sheath.
Sharp sword and a soft sheath. Sharp sword and a soft sheath.
Sharp sword and a soft sheath.
My kids love tongue twisters.
Give them that one. Sharp sword and a soft sheath.
I wonder if people practice tongue twisters in other languages, like the German tongue twister, Belgian tongue twister.
They must.
Hey, someone's asking a good question here. When they get liberation, this is Jason. Do they get liberation to Goloka, to Krishna's abode, or is only liberation to the Brahmajyoti?
That's a great question. Now, Shishupal, his merging was into the Brahmajyoti. Okay. Now, in one sense, Putana, she's worse than Shishupal, right? She's a shapeshifter. She shifted her shape. The shapeshifter was a sharp sword and a soft sheath.
How many shapeshifters did it shift to shape?
So she shifted her shape, and she came there with this heart full of envy, to kill Krishna. She's the worst, right? Killing a baby.
Yeah,
Right.
I guess I never thought about the demons being in different gradations of demonhood.
Yeah,
But yeah, I guess she's might be the worst.
this
Except
is
for that damn cart.
cartoon. So then Krishna, it's again gunagrahi. He sees the good. He doesn't see that, oh, she's an evil Rakshasi. He doesn't take that. Look how two-faced she is. That she dressed, as a beautiful mother. That she came as if she was going to care for me, and she tried to kill me with this really heavy-duty poison. It was like powerful poison. He didn't see any of that. He just said, "Oh, she came to me like a mother." Right. So he sucks the breast, but he sucked the life right out of her. And as he's doing that, like, she can't maintain this mystic illusion that she's presenting of this beautiful woman. So her form is as a horrid, gruesome Rakshasi, appears, and she falls on the ground and she dies. Now, what happened? But what Krishna granted her was, again, going back to Jason's question, Shishupal got like this oneness, to enter into the oneness. It's a type of liberation, but it's not like what the great devotees, it's what some yogis are aiming for, but it's not that at all the highest destination. But Krishna granted Putana the spiritual realm, Goloka Vrindavan. She became a resident of Vrindavan. That is just, off the charts merciful, right?
All right. Second question: if Shishupal was an incarnation of Jai and Vijay, or Dantavakra and Shishupal, why? And so they're devotees, actually. Why did they get mere liberation instead of?
Well, they got more eventually. Right?
Okay. They were building up to it.
Okay.
And they're building up to it.
So this idea that Krishna is not only kind, not only merciful, but it's like extreme. This is a verse that you can put a frame around this verse, draw a red circle around this verse, right? This is what the great teachers of Bhakti have done for us by quoting this verse in different places. They drew a big red circle around it and said, take a look at this, right? Take a look at this. If you're afraid of a personal form of God, if you've got hang-ups and scars, due to your relationships, and it's preventing you from opening your heart, to a personal God, think about this, that this is the character that we're dealing with here, that he's a little baby. He gets attacked, by someone with the most heinous intentions. And he doesn't come off like, I'm going to, let me punish you, let me, damn you to hell forever, or anything like that. He actually only saw the good, and his heart is so kindly disposed that he felt inclined to offer her, the ultimate liberation. That stuns when the great yogis, when they think about this verse, they say, "Aho, this is incredible." It's something that they ponder and think about, and it's a verse that comes up in many different places, throughout the Bhakti literature. And can you think of the one I'm thinking of, Raghu, a real big and important one, where this verse was quoted?
No.
And it sent someone into ecstasy.
Oh, it's Lord Chaitanya to Pundarik Vidyaniddhi, maybe?
It was, Lord Chaitanya wasn't there, but there was Gadadhar Pandit,
Gadadhar Pandit,
one of the great devotees of Sri Chaitanya.
Pundarik Vidyaniti was he was very, very well-to-do and refined.
Well, beyond that, I mean,
pastime, correct?
No, that's right. But I would describe it more like he appeared. Now, the point is this: Gadadhar Pandit was a Vaishnava. He was a
brahmachari. And a brahmachari.
Simple. It's simple living, right? And he was being told about this great Vaishnava, this great Bhakti-yogi, Pundarik Vidyaniddhi. And he didn't know him, but another devotee named Mukunda did know him. And Mukunda said, "Oh, let me take you to meet Pundarik Vidyaniddhi. This person is so exalted. Their depth of devotion is just the highest. You really have to meet this very special yogi, you know.
Right. So Gadadhar is very excited. Okay. He's already Gadadhar Pandit's already incredibly renounced. So he's thinking, now I'm going to meet some sage in a cave and loincloth or something.
Yeah.
And he comes in to see Pundarik Vidyanidhi and describe, please.
And so when they come to his house, this did not appear like a yogi. This person was living in opulence, in almost like ridiculous levels. You know, his home was like extreme, you know, like over the top, like opulent. And he himself, you know, like his hair was like oiled with like fragrant oils. Like,
Yeah, I hate all those people with hair.
And he just had really like, silk, fancy clothes, and everything about him said, oh, this person is a total materialist. It appeared that way, right? This person is caught up in the externals.
Great lessons here. Great lessons, you know.
There is a lesson here, yeah. And when Gadadhar Pandit saw this, he didn't say anything. He didn't say, "What the hell is this? Who, you know?"
Who's this guy?
Yeah, but internally he was thinking, "This is, I don't know." You know, he was doubting all that he had heard.
Telling me I should take instruction from this guy who's appearing like a total materialist.
Yeah, and so Mukunda's looking at Gadadhar Pandit. And you know, you read that nugget the other day where it said, why do we yell at people? And it says, you know, because when the hearts are very distant, you yell to make it up. But when you come very close, you don't even need words.
Yeah.
And so Mukunda is so intimate with Gadadhar Pandit, he can look over and he says, Gadadhar doesn't understand. Gadadhar's, because he's seeing all this external opulence, he's doubting the character of Punderik Vidyanidhi, the devotion of Punderik Vidyanidhi. And Mukunda was known as a great singer. And so Mukunda said, okay, I can clear this up. This will help. So he sang this verse, a whole Bhakti-yogi, you know. He sang this verse about Putana and how merciful Krishna is that he granted this highest liberation to Putana, although she came with a heart full of envy just to kill him. So he sings this verse out. And when Pundarik Vidyanidhi hears that verse, he goes into the Sattvika Bhavas, you know, but like big time. You know, he's just like, you know, he's crying and I won't even describe the whole scene, but he really loses it, you know.
I think that's like such a beautiful point for like everybody is we go into this world and we assess people by their outfits, by their hair, by their car, by their stuff. But we miss out on this, what they are inside. It's a very don't judge a book by the cover. And I think in Bhakti, because there is sort of most of our lives, we never think about renunciation. But when you get into yoga or different yoga systems and even Bhakti, you start thinking, okay, give up, live less, live without and stuff like that. But in Bhakti, it's really got nothing to do with what we have, but it's rather got to do with what we do with what we have. And it's like an important point because it's very easy. And of course, I did this when I was a brahmachari. You start to judge people who have. Oh, look at these people. They're so enmeshed in the material life. And in your renunciation can become a type of deep-rooted arrogance, which might be good for renouncing things and giving you some freedom because when you're indulgent, you're in pain. But if I'm renouncing and I'm judgmental of other people, it's a real problem for my bhakti because the renunciation will make the heart hardened and it won't make and in bhakti, we need the heart to be softer. And so it's great when these examples of real connected people like Yudhisthira, like Pundarik Vidyanidhi, like Arjuna, or people who are actually really in the world. They're really in the world much more than I'm in the world. You know, they're like really in the world, but they're just not of this world. And that's like a very beautiful, you know, a beautiful quality.
Yeah, yeah. And so when Gadadhar Pandit saw this, he realized, I get the whole thing. Mukunda understood where my mind was at. And for my own benefit, he sang this verse so that I would see just how exalted Pundarik Vidyaniti is. And his response, do you know what his response was?
He share. I don't know.
He surrendered and became the disciple of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. He says, I want to become this person's servant because just in my mind, I was offensive to him. You know, I want to become now his servant. And he became his servant. So there's quite a few lessons learned today. One is you don't judge the book by the cover, right? And another good one is this gunagrahi. You know, a noble person, they magnify the good qualities and they shrink, you know, the bad qualities, right? They don't see the bad qualities so much. They see the good. And a person that's not so noble, it's the opposite, right? They magnify whatever little fault is there, make a big deal about it. Krishna's the other way.
Don't insult Krishna. He's counting.
That's another one.
And don't smear poison on your breast. That's just not good. It's not good for anyone.
Never. Never.
Thanks, everybody.
It worked for Putana.
Day. Adding Sri Krishna to our life makes all our life auspicious. So today we will have Sweet Baby Krishna for all our Patreon members. If you're not a Patreon member, great day to sign up. Patreon.com/Wisdom of the Sages. It helps us keep our little Bhagavatam boat floating, and it's very, very appreciated. Thank you so much for those who are members.
So is there a show, or is there Sweet Baby Krishna tomorrow? Is there a show tomorrow?
Sweet Baby Krishna tonight.
What about tomorrow?
What about tomorrow?
You said by the end of the show, you're going to tell us whether or not you're doing
Yes, and there's a Sweet Baby Krishna tomorrow also. What do you think about that?
But there's no regular show tomorrow.
There's no regular show tomorrow, so we're going to take tomorrow off, and Sweet Baby Krishna tomorrow, and then we'll end our retreat with questions and answers day on Saturday.
Sleeping Saturday.
Okay.
And there's
Thanks,
a
everybody.
BRG meeting today.
What's that?
Bhakti Recovery Group at noon.
Bhakti Recovery Group at noon. Thanks, everybody. Okay, let's get some singing and dancing from our people here at the retreat. King of Hearts. Yes, come on. Radha. Sing louder, people. Come on. It's 6 a.m. You'd be singing really loud at this point. Shri Radha.